to an episode of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo Malloy. So today I am joined by a special guest. He hosts Piecing It Together podcast. So please welcome David Rosen.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to having you here. So this film will be an interesting one to talk about. So we'll be discussing Nacho Libre. So Nacho Libre is a 2006 comedy film. It is directed and co-written by Jared Hess, who's known for directing films such as Napoleon Dynamite and Masterminds. And also recently I just found out he is the director of the upcoming Minecraft movie, which based off that trailer looks interesting, I'll say.
Yee.
Yeah. So the film is co-written by Jerusha Hess and Mike White. The film stars Jack Black, Hector Jimenez, and Ana de la Reguera. I hope I pronounced those names right. So here is the synopsis. Ignacio, played by Jack Black, or Nacho to his friends, works as a cook in the Mexican monastery where he grew up. The monastery is home to a host of orphans whom Nacho cares for deeply, but there is not much money to feed them properly. Nacho decides to raise money for the children by moonlighting as a lucha libre wrestler with his partner Esqueleto, played by Hector Jimenez. But since the church forbids lucha, Nacho must disguise his identity. So the film came out in theaters on June 16, 2006. It has a production budget of 32 million. In terms of box office, it made over 99.2 million worldwide. It opened number 2 domestically with 28.3 million. It opened behind the Pixar film Cars. In terms of critical reception, it has a 3.2 rating on Letterboxd. It was nominated for 5 Teen Choice Awards, including Choice Comedy. At the time of this recording, it is available to stream on Paramount Plus and is available on demand, so check your local provider. All right, we can get into first discoveries. So, David, do you want to start?
Sure. I was a huge fan of Napoleon Dynamite. I actually got to see it at an early screening back before it came out. And just even trying to explain what that movie was like to my friends, it was like impossible because it was just so weird and so out there. And then once it came out, of course, was just this huge, sensation. And so I was really excited to see what Jared Hess would do next. So I feel like Nacho Libre more than, lived up to the expectations of like the weirdness, but like at the time, even though I definitely liked it a lot, I didn't really go back to it. And when this came up as an option for me to join you on this podcast, I was really excited because I hadn't watched it in at least 10 or 15 years. And so revisiting this one was really fun because, yeah, back at the time, it was like it was almost kind of crushed under its own expectations just because Napoleon Dynamite was such a huge, huge sensation. And so it's just a really hard film to live up to. But I think like ultimately, it kind of did the job.
Hmm. That's great. So I have not seen not naturally Napoleon Dynamite, but I have heard about it. I heard like it was a popular movie at the time, so I didn't had those expectations when I first heard about this movie because
Mhm.
I saw the trailer. It must have been in theaters at the time I first saw the trailer. I'm like, oh, this looks like a fun movie, and like with Jack Black, of course, he always delivers with his movies. I liked School of Rock and the stuff he has done before. And so watching this movie, I thought for the first time, I really enjoyed it at the time. It was quite funny. I think as a sports movie, it's interesting because I was not familiar with Mexican wrestling. I remember watching like WWE wrestling at the time. So yeah, that was like a fun like dynamic to watch. And rewatching it now, I do find like it holds up, but like you, I haven't really gone back to it that much because it has been a while since I've last seen this movie. And in retrospect, I find it surprising that it's a Nickelodeon production because as a kids movie, I find it's quite a bit out there.
It's funny.
But
I posted on Twitter that I was rewatching this for a podcast, and so many people replied about how much of a great family movie it is. And I don't know that that's how I would describe it, but then again, I don't have
Hmm.
kids, so what do I know? But apparently families watch this together and kids love it, and hey, that's great because it sure is fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we could get into the highlights, essentially what we liked about this movie. So, as I said, I do like how it introduces, at least to a Western audience, the Mexican wrestling, because I find, yeah, it's a bit more theatrical compared to like American wrestling as far as I've seen, and clearly there's like no rules. Like, if assuming if this is accurate in terms of the sport, because we see that like when they get off the ring, I guess like that counts like in terms of points and all that stuff, which I find is quite hilarious.
Hmm.
But I find for me like I enjoyed like the wrestling aspects of this movie.
Yeah, yeah. The focus on Mexican wrestling is really fun, and I feel like
Hmm.
that's a thing in popular culture that like we knew existed, but we've certainly never seen a movie about it, and so like
Hmm.
it's certainly unique in that aspect. And I feel like this kind of brought it to new audiences that form of wrestling. But so I mean, yeah, that's definitely a big part of the draw here. To me, the thing that makes it so much fun is just the nonstop jokes and
Hmm.
ridiculousness and weirdness. Like every other line in this movie is some weird non sequitur, like my favorite color is light tan, or get that corn out of my face, or just like these weird little lines that just come out of nowhere. And it's like how they're able to pack this script with so much nonsense is really quite remarkable.
Absolutely. Because I found for the most part the comedy does work in this movie. Yeah, like due to the script, of course, but I think also too due to the performances. Because I really
Hmm.
liked Jack Black as the lead. He's not that quite out there compared to his previous works. Because I like how his character is very sincere. Like he really enjoys working with the kids and
The Ninos.
yes, absolutely. Even though like he has his like isms like throughout the movie, like for example when he is singing as part of
Hmm.
the musicians, which was a hilarious scene. But yeah, like I really enjoyed this one, his performance. It's, I would say, one of my favorite performances with Jack Black.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great mix of his more out there stuff and a little bit more reserved at times. I mean, it fits for the character for sure. And yeah, he like kind of slips back into being Jack Black whenever he's singing or whenever things get like really ridiculous. And I
Hmm.
think Hector Jimenez, his sidekick, is he's also great in this. And I don't. He does have a lot of credits, but I didn't really recognize him from other things. But he's been in like 40 other movies or something. So he's certainly, had a good career since then.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's super, super funny in this too. And the rest of like the supporting cast, lots of like one scene characters or people that are kind of background. Like there's a lot of playing off of Jack Black, and they're all really great.
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. Um, Another aspect I liked how this movie like it really highlights food, like its importance of food.
Yeah.
Because like at the beginning, like the food is very dull and it looks quite disgusting. Like when you fed the kid, look like, I don't know what to describe it, like a dark like oatmeal like with the chips like that looked depressing to
Oh,
eat.
yeah. I
But
think it was
then
just beans. It was just like a bean dish or something.
yeah, yeah. It does
Well,
not look appeasing for sure.
Well, you said you haven't seen Napoleon Dynamite. This isn't
Hmm.
really a spoiler or anything, but food plays a big part in that movie too. So that seems to be
Oh,
something Jared Hess likes to, really shine a light on and make comedy out of. Is just like gross food dishes and then really good looking food dishes and kind of everything in the middle. So
yeah. Oh, okay. That's good to know. Cause yeah, I love how too like with the food here, like when once he gets the money, it looks very colorful and looks quite delicious as well too with the salad. So
absolutely.
yeah, for sure. Also too, I noticed this movie has a lot of close-ups.
Yeah, yeah. I remember like when both this and Napoleon Dynamite came out, there was a lot of comparisons between Jared Hess and Wes Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
He's big on like those like very symmetrical shots and like close-ups, like you said, and really playing with what's in the frame of every scene. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I mean, that's definitely, I think, a director trademark as far as
Okay.
Jared Hess is concerned. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, you mentioned that his next thing is the Minecraft movie, which does not look good at all. But I mean, maybe it'll be something if he gets to play with that kind of stuff, and it's not just a corporate video game movie thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, we shall see with that one, but just based off that trailer, I was like,
Yeah,
no, no.
yeah. Uh,
Um. Oh, you want to go ahead?
I would say another thing that I love about this movie is the music.
Yeah.
There's this weird song, I am a religious man," that kind of goes throughout the film. It's in the opening credits and then the
Mm-hmm.
big climax, and it comes up multiple times. Like, what a perfect song that they found, which was an existing song, apparently.
Mm.
Apparently, that was a song from the 70s that they found that's just super weird and fits the tone of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the music is great, too.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's quite cute with the music. I don't know if it's something that I would listen to on repeat myself,
Yeah,
but
sure.
I didn't mind the music choices in this movie.
Yeah.
Hmm. So in terms of scenes, I enjoyed the opening credits,
Hmm.
like from when we see first a younger version of Jack Black's character in the homemade luchador outfit was quite cute, and how they incorporated the titles for that was nice.
Yeah, that was great. I love
Hmm.
that. I also love anytime he's trying to show off for the nun character, who's his love interest.
Yeah.
Jack Black is fearless. He'll do anything for the jokes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And as I mentioned briefly, I enjoyed the scene with Ignacio singing at the party was quite
Hmm.
hilarious. I wasn't sure if the song he did was improvised, but it clearly felt that way. But
Sure. Yeah, it definitely felt that way. Yeah, I also love that woman who's really into his sidekick, and she's got like secret tunnels through the house to like catch him. Like, it's just so random, so weird.
oh yeah, for sure. And it was quite hilarious when Ramsey spills the wine on his shirt.
Yeah, yeah, that was good stuff. All of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, because I thought he would have done something more drastic, like I don't know, like beat him up or something. But no, he just spills the wine on his shirt.
Yeah, everything is like a step away from turning really, really, really bad for Nacho.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it always kind of stays in that kind of just, again, like we said, apparently this is a big family friendly movie.
Yeah.
So it all just kind of stays just lighthearted and kind of cartoonish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I guess the final note that I have for this section is I like the training montage was quite hilarious. Like when Nacho does the training, I put in quotes with Steven. I thought that whole sequence was quite hilarious because it clearly shows the lack of experience, but the passion, I would say, it makes up for all that stuff.
Sure, absolutely.
Hmm.
I would say also to go along with the training, the wrestling scenes, they don't need to be as good as they are, but they actually are
Hmm.
filmed really well. And
Yeah.
wrestling is it's already this big kind of fake, facade, thing, and so to kind of make that cinematic is a little bit tough, like because you got to
Yeah.
heighten it even further, and I think they do a really good
Hmm.
job.
Absolutely. So, was there anything else you want to add for this section?
I mean, I think that's about it. I mean, we could sit
Hmm.
here naming lines and scenes all day because there's just so many of them.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's really just nonstop 90 minutes of funny lines, and I think you could do this podcast multiple times over and just name different ones each time. It's like that's how many
Hmm.
different things there are in this movie. It's just nonstop, and that's really what I love about it so much.
Absolutely. So we could get into the lowlights section, essentially what we disliked about the movie. For me, I would say I found like the pacing for me was a bit slow, like when it went outside of the wrestling stuff. for me. I don't know if you felt that way, but
Personally, I didn't, and the thing is it's weird with comedy because,
hmm
especially ridiculous comedy like this, where it's like totally nonsensical. The rules kind of go out the window for me,
hmm
and if
hmm
I'm laughing, I can kind of look the other way on things like pacing, story structure, things like that. It's just kind of like
hmm
if I'm laughing, I'm not even noticing that stuff, and so
hmm
to me, it was hard to even find anything for lowlights of this movie because I was just laughing so much.
Okay. Yes, I have a few myself.
Hmm.
For me, like I just wondered, was the money important for the orphanage? Because even though clearly they don't have the resources, they didn't act as if like they desperately needed the money. For me,
Yeah,
um,
no, that's true. That's true. There's
yeah.
never really a sign that like they're in any kind of dire straits or anything. They're just going about their business, living their life, raising the
Mm-hmm.
kids, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, their food's not very tasty, but other
Yeah.
than that, everything's basically fine.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because I
Hmm.
just wish for me there was more of that sense of urgency when it came to the money,
Sure.
but I could see why like they want to be more like earnest about
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah. I would say, in a way, if I was gonna try to nitpick a low light, since like I said, I really didn't have anything, but I would say there's not really an antagonist. I mean, there is the other wrestler, but the other wrestler doesn't care about Jack Black's character. He's not like
yeah,
out to get him or anything.
mm-hmm.
So there's really no antagonist. It's just Jack Black being an idiot and going up against him, but he's not really an opponent or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So another one I had is I wondered what drew his character to be a luchador. Because I think from the opening scene we see him like keep doing like the sketches of him being a wrestler and all this stuff. I just wondered why does he want to be
Mm.
a wrestler?
Yeah, it would have been fun to see like a flashback or something.
Yeah.
Because he grew up at that place, that church or orphanage or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and so maybe seeing him as a kid, and maybe like an old teacher snuck him out to see the wrestlers when he was young, and that kind of planted the seed or something like that could have gone to I think really help with that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Because apparently, like Ramses is supposed to be his idol,
Yeah,
which I didn't get unless if I missed that part. But
no, it's just random.
yeah, okay, okay, awesome. Also, too, I just wondered because when we first see Steven, he steals Nacho's tortilla chips that's meant for the orphanage, and I just wonder why they team up together to become wrestlers.
Again, it's just so random. I mean, it's almost just like there's this guy who he has interacted with before. Let's make that the guy that becomes his sidekick. Like, like there's
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
there's no actual character development or anything like that. It's just
Yeah.
kind of like it just happens.
Yeah. I felt like for me, like it could have been justified if, let's say, Steven was like a down on his luck wrestler that, that
Hmm.
couldn't get in for whatever reason. But
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
it could have worked.
hmm Also, too, I thought it was quite funny that Nacho he immediately reveals himself after he got caught on fire at the orphanage.
I love that scene, and I love all the kids just laughing at him as if he's not in grave danger, but the kids are just laughing because he's so funny.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Like it's a hilarious scene, but I just wondered, like, he could have, made something up, but I guess he didn't want to
Yeah,
lie to the orphanage. But
he's a nice guy.
yeah, absolutely. And a final note I had is that when Steven throws the corn at the guy, is like it somehow like hits like the guy's eye. I'm just like, what? I didn't realize corn was that sharp.
I love that. I love that scene. So that's one of my favorite parts. I also love when Steven is it's in that rich guy's house and there's a doll and he sees the doll and for some reason he decides to push in the doll's eye and it shatters. It's it's so weird. I feel like that's
Yeah.
like a callback to that scene or something. I don't know, but it's really weird.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. So, was there anything else you wanted to add for this section?
No, like I said, it was really tough to find things that I didn't like about this movie. That's how much I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, if we could get into trivia, so some fun facts. So, here's a few that I could find through IMDb. So apparently, this film was partly inspired by Fray Tormenta, who was known as Firestorm, aka Reverend Sergio Gutierrez Benitez, a Mexican priest who became a wrestler to raise money for his parish.
I think I remember hearing about that. Yeah, that's an amazing story. They should make like a straightforward story of that
Mm-hmm.
movie of that. That would be an interesting movie, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Another fun fact, apparently during some of the wrestling scenes, they used blow up dolls to replace some of the audience. Supposedly, they cost much less than extras and they looked real.
Hmm. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, like I didn't notice that at all during those scenes, so that's quite impressive.
No, not at all. That is very impressive.
Yeah, because I imagine today they would use CGI or VFX to make up the audience, but yeah, that's it's impressive for sure.
Absolutely.
Hmm. So another fun fact: during filming, Jack Black recorded a series of confessionals, which were uploaded onto the internet as video podcasts available from iTunes. They became one of the most popular podcasts in the world.
Hmm. I missed that. Yeah, that sounds like it would be really fun.
Yeah, I wonder if they're still up there. I'm sure they're out there somewhere, maybe on YouTube.
Yeah, possibly.
Hmm. And the last one, as promo tactics, thousands of free Nacho Libre masks were given out to movie theaters and selected wrestling shows.
That's awesome. I actually at that early screening of Napoleon Dynamite, I got a Napoleon Dynamite mask. I still have it in my garage.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, because I saw like a Nacho Libre in theaters. I mean, I didn't get that at the time, but oh well.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh well. So lastly, I usually leave this question: should this movie be rediscovered? So, what do you think, David?
I absolutely do. I had so much fun with this movie. Like I said, it is so funny, and I feel like as long as you're okay with ridiculousness, I can't imagine not loving this movie. It's just so funny and so silly and so just nonstop with the jokes. And Jack Black is kind of at the top of his game here. He's so good, and this is kind of right in that run of like School of Rock, Tropic Thunder, like some of his funniest stuff, all of his Tenacious D stuff. And so, yeah, this is really one that I think should definitely be rediscovered.
I'm right there with you on that boat. It's one of those movies, yeah, that it's a delight to watch. I love how it introduces Mexican wrestling to a wider audience, and it's quite enjoyable in every aspect with this movie. So
Absolutely.
there's that. So that pretty much concludes this episode of the podcast. So where can people find you, David? Do you have any projects coming up? Any that sorts of stuff?
So you can find Piecing It Together, my podcast, on all the podcast apps, anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's a show about movies and talking about what other movies might have inspired them. So I've been going for a little over 6 years now. Like I said, we're on all the podcast apps, and you can follow me on social media at Piecing Pod. And I'm also a musician, so you can check out my music at bydavidrosen.com.
Awesome, that's great. So you can find myself. I'm on Instagram, X, YouTube, and Linktree at Numphy Malloy. You could find the podcast on Instagram, X, YouTube, and Linktree at RD Movies Pod. You could visit buymeacoffee.com/RD Movies Pod to donate. On Spotify app, you can answer the featured poll. You could rate the podcast and leave a comment. For those of you that use Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review and rate the podcast. And you could submit questions, comments, and suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com, to be featured on the after show, which will air after the season finale. All right, that pretty much wraps up this episode. So, David, do you have any final notes you want to share?
Uh, what's another line in here that I have? I'll just name one other because I wrote so many. I don't believe in God. I believe in science. That that whole thing is so funny, and there's just too many good lines to quote on this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope to catch you on the next one.